their shopping baskets clutched in gloved hands, clicked the heels of their black high-buttoned shoes on the boardwalk of the main street. Horses stood, hip-shot, outside the saddle-makers, the bank, 3 saloons, and the general store. A couple of empty buckboards rattled in from another direction, while one was being loaded by a harassed-looking teenager in a white apron. A typical Saturday in Big Rock, Smoke allowed. He nosed Cougar toward the hitch rail in front of the General Mercantile. There he dismounted and climbed to the plank walk. Inside the store, Nate Barber, the owner, greeted Smoke warmly.
"Not often enough we see you, Mr. Jensen.
You sure picked a day for it. Got near a whole mailbag full for you." Smoke raised a yellow-brown eyebrow. "That's so. I wonder what the occasion might be." "Catalog time again," the postmaster merchant advised, then added a familiar complaint. "Those mail-order outfits are going to be the ruin of stores like mine." Smoke nodded and went to the caged counter, behind which ran a ceiling-high rank of pigeonhole boxes to hold the mail. His, he noted, bulged with envelopes. Barbara went into his small post office and bent to retrieve a stack of bound soft-cover volumes. "Here you are, Mr. Jensen. I'll get those letters for you, too." Smoke went quickly through the catalogs. He found the latest Sears issue for Sally, another for musical instruments by mail order, and one for himself from a saddle and tack manufacturer. That might prove useful, he reasoned. Anything made of leather eventually wore out, and no manner of patching could salvage it in the end. Some of the breaking saddles used on the Sugarloaf had begun to look rather shabby. If the prices were lower for this outfit in San Angelo, Texas than in Denver, he might order 4 new ones. Among the correspondence, he found a creamy, thick envelope of obvious high quality, addressed to him in a rich, flowery script that denoted that the writer had learned his letters in a language other than English. The return address was Rancho de la Gloria, Taos, New Mexico Territory. Don Diego Alvarado, Smoke recognized at once. Smoke had come to know Diego Alvarado several years ago, when he had been in New Mexico briefly on a cattle-buying trip. The gentlemanly, reserved Don Diego was the grandson of an original Spanish grandee who had the patent of the King of Spain for roughly 1,000 acres of high, mountainous desert to the west of Taos. His father had retained title to the land through service to the Mexican government after independence and had added to the family holdings. Steeped in the traditions of his ancestors' culture, Alvarado was a superb host who loved to entertain. Smoke had soon discovered that Diego's facade of reserve quickly vanished with a glass of tequila in one hand and a slice of lime in the other. The little feast put on for Smoke and his hands had turned out to be a 3-day extravaganza of food and drink. They had paid for their lavish keep before leaving, however. Smoke and his men had joined the vaqueros of Rancho de la Gloria in fighting off a band of renegade Comanches who swarmed up out of the Texas Panhandle. Barber interrupted his speculation. "Need any supplies today, Mr. Jensen?" "No, Nate, I didn't bring a wagon along." "Say, do you happen to have any of that sulfur elixir?" Nate Barber nodded. "Just happens to do, now that I bought out old Doc Phillips' stock from the apothecary shop. How many bottles?" Smoke chuckled. "Ike's got 6 youngsters out there. Might as well make it 2 bottles." "Sure thing." The merchant produced the corked, seamless glass bottles and wrapped each in paper. Smoke noticed that the packing material appeared to be printed pages. "Advertising your place now, Nate?" Nate glanced down, then smiled as he cut his eyes to Smoke. "Nope, discarded catalogs. Some folks find 'em a bother and toss 'em away." Smoke nodded his understanding, paid for his purchase, and took his mail and the medicine along. Outside, he stowed it all in his saddlebags, swung into the saddle, and directed Cougar toward his next stop. Monty Carson would no doubt be down in his 12th cup of coffee about now. "Smoke, how are you doing?" Monty Carson bellowed as Smoke entered the office portion of the jail. Smoke and the sheriff had been friends for many long years, ever since the time when Smoke forswore the dangerous life of gunfighter for hire and stood back to back with Monty to rid the streets of Big Rock of some